Wait, we're live?
We're live.
Why don't you bring us in there, Pete? You're kicking me.
Because you always like to bring us in, man.
Welcome into the Canes Insight Daily podcast. We are live from the Light. We're at Mark Light. It is opening day baseball. The Miami Hurricanes got a new football coach, defensive backs coach Will Harris. Stuffed Billy in a locker, took one of his best, most in-demand coaches, brought him over to Miami to remake a secondary that is priority number one. And I think at least for this first offseason, this first part of the offseason, they've done everything they can to make that unit great. We'll talk that. We'll talk baseball. We'll take your questions. This Friday, we are feeling great. We're a lot sharper than that intro would suggest. And folks that are always sharp, by the way, Anajar and Levine, accident attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
This guy's a whirling dervish, man. If you guys only knew. Anyways, we're live from the Light, man. Season opener, exciting. We'll talk baseball. Sebastian Font will join the show a little bit later here to get into baseball, but we're excited about this news from last night, obviously, which is that Miami is hiring Will Harris. We kind of said that we expected another defensive backs coach here, and that's Will Harris coming in, going to be working with Zach Etheridge as the other defensive backs coach. And I mean, to take him from Florida, I think is the big headline here that has everyone excited.
Yeah, this is somebody that Florida wanted desperately to keep, right? You could tell by the reaction of the Florida Gators, which we'll get to in a second. But this was someone that Florida desperately wanted to keep, and the reason is obvious. First, was a young coach, 36 years old. We'll get into his track record of success, pros and college. But just looking at the Gators, last year, meaning 23, the Gators were probably the worst pass defense in the country. Certainly, they were in contention for the absolute worst in the country. Significantly worse than Miami was this year, and we all know how bad it was this year. That's how bad the Gators were when Harris joined the squad from the Los Angeles Chargers. According to TeamRankings.com, which is only FBS versus FBS, the most reliable stats you can have, the Gators improved 63 spots in pass efficiency defense under Harris's tenure and 83 spots in interceptions per game. You saw that defense improve steadily throughout the year, peaking at the end of the year, which shows they were learning, they were developing. Obviously, Miami took them to the woodshed, but that just speaks to where the different programs are. But over the course of the season, the Gators' pass defense and their defense as a whole, but certainly their pass defense, which was their biggest weakness, improved tremendously. So this is not a situation coming into Miami that Harris is unfamiliar with, dealing with, let's say, open heart surgery on a unit that really needs an overhaul. Miami's actually in better shape, before you get to the transfers, just in terms of where they were last year. Miami is actually in better shape than the Gators were when Will Harris got there. Young guy, great recruiter. He was lead on Ben Hanks, involved with Drake Stubbs, a lot of players.
Listen, I was getting killed on Twitter last night because I tweeted it out from the Canes Inside account that he was, part of these recruitments, and people were like, "Whoa, why was he recruiting Dallas Wilson? He's a wide receiver." Look at it. It's on his 247 recruiting page profile. So this, this wasn't me making it up out of thin air. I don't know if he's the reason he went there, that these guys went there, but it says he was the primary recruiter on Ben Hanks. Drake Stubbs, he was involved with, as we've talked about. Jalen Seatbelt Waters, which 100% he's been the primary recruiter on. We understand that could be a big thing moving forward. But, I think that from what we were talking about before the show, the coaching was the most impressive thing about what he did at Florida last year, because we can go back and look at our preseason or pregame pod that we did with Eric Esteban from Fox Sports. And we were kind of getting on him about the defensive backs and that the secondary was not going to be that good. And it ended up being a pretty solid unit, and we saw them get better as the year progressed.
Yeah, and that was even with losing their starting safety in the first game when Xavier Restrepo put a spin move on him and his knee exploded. But yeah, the Gator secondary improved after that bloodbath in the opening game tremendously. Will Harris getting a lot of credit for it. And again, I like to look when these things happen. We'll go through his CV in a second. I like to look at the Gators' reaction when things like this happen, or whatever coach or portal guy we get? What does the team that just lost that player or portal guy think about it? That obviously tells you a lot in my experience. So on CanesInsight.com, which if you haven't signed up yet, free website, the biggest Canes community on the planet, 7 million posts and counting. And our biggest thread by far is Gator Tears. As you can see, 4,170 pages of comments just highlighting Gator Tears, which have been flowing lately, particularly after that beatdown last year. And those tears were flowing again here after this loss to the Canes on the coaching front, losing Will Harris. So they are very, very upset. And really, they focus even more on the coaching loss than the recruiting loss. That whatever the perception of him is, when it comes to the Gators, their perception of him is that he is a coach and developer. And that's reflected in the stats I showed you. Again, 63 spot improvement when you look at the rankings in pass efficiency defense year to year, 83 spot improvement in interceptions per game with pretty much, similar personnel. It's not like they brought in Caleb Downs, right, off the street to fill that unit up. It was a coaching and development situation that allowed them to improve. So going through the CV here, Harris came from the NFL. So we're talking about he's not really some kind of like mercenary recruiter. He's a coach. You know that because he came from the NFL. You don't recruit there. Los Angeles Chargers. He was assistant DB coach out there. Also spent one season as the defensive coordinator for Georgia Southern, so he has more of a knowledge of the total defense at the college level. And he coached 8 NFL draft picks at the University of Washington. I mean, you go through some of these names. This was the period where University of Washington was the number 1 school in the nation, including Alabama, Georgia. To me, the best defensive backs in the country at that time were coming out of the University of Washington. Trent McDuffie, maybe the best corner in the pros, certainly one of the top 3. Kyler Gordon, second-round pick for the Chicago Bears. You're talking about Miles Brandt, all Pac-12. Elijah Molden, first-team all Pac-12, All-America, NFL player. Taylor Rapp, Byron Murphy, All-America type players. I believe Byron Murphy was both were second-round picks, so 2 second-round picks there. So that shows you what he can do. He's a Southern California graduate, USC. He is a native of Southern California, so it's an area where Mario Cristobal has done really, really nice job recruiting that whole coast. Hayden Lowe, the 5-star in Miami's class this year, is from Southern California. So maybe we push into that area to grab some recruits. Certainly this doesn't hurt that effort. He's also the lead recruiter for Jalen Waters, Miami's top target in the 26 class as a cornerback. Extremely long, talented corner from Sefner Armwood, committed to University of Florida. Miami's making a push, and he was tweeting up a storm yesterday. You might have seen Dennis Smith with the seatbelt tweet. That's a reference to Jalen's seatbelt Waters. That's his nickname because that's how he sticks to wide receivers. Very, very likely that you start seeing the crystal balls roll in for a flip from Jalen Waters to the University of Miami, and he is the top defensive back on the board.
Couple of comments I wanted to get to here. Plank Time said, did the other guy, meaning Zach Etheridge, know we were bringing in another DB coach? I'd be absolutely shocked if he didn't know that there was going to be another coach working with them. I mean, look, when these jobs are, accepted and negotiated, the money's one thing, but figuring out kind of the nature of the coaching tree is another part of it. And look, I don't know if he knew it was going to be Will Harris necessarily, but he definitely had an idea there'd be someone else there working with him.
All right, pull in the private chat there. Pull up that tweet, Pete, and you could see right here. This is a tweet from Zach Etheridge, Miami's other defensive back coach. Looks like Etheridge is going to focus on cornerbacks, and then Harris will focus on safeties. But there you go. This was what Zach Etheridge tweeted when Harris decided to join the Canes. Jack boys. There you see the turnover chain. Mike Jackson, still an NFL corner. I think that speaks for itself.
And then A-Rob says Harris will be back in the NFL in a year. And look, I'll say this, guys. We get a lot of comments here sometimes about, man, we need coaching stability, that you want to have the coaches stay as long as they can. I want someone who's going to be here for a while. Let me tell you something. If he's back in the NFL in a year, it means that this secondary performed. You want coaches to go on and move. You want them to also be able to cultivate the right, staff around them, underneath them, cultivate that into the players, right? So that whoever the next guy is, you keep a lot of that same good energy, obviously. But if they're moving on to the next level, it means they've probably done something good here.
Exactly. The NFL stealing coaches isn't my concern. I'd be much more concerned about my rivals stealing my coaches, because that means they're taking it from me. NFL means they did work and they're moving on to the next stage in their career. So like Pete said, if he's going to the NFL next year, that means he did something right. Just looking at this the turnover in the secondary overall, just kind of recapping. You bring in Harris, highly valued coach in the SEC from your rival, the Florida Gators, somebody who helped that unit improve tremendously, a hot commodity, a young coach, a rising coach, somebody that had a lot of value in the coaching community, right? Zach Etheridge, who you got from Houston, did a great job at Houston, had just gotten a promotion at Houston. Auburn grad, would have still been at Auburn. Certain things happened, nothing to do with his ability to coach football or his ability to coach at the University of Miami, and he moves on. But he is a highly respected defensive backs coach, highly valued. Again, just got a raise at Houston before we brought him over and a promotion. You look at the names we brought in the secondary. We need a safety. Harris is going to coach the safeties. His top guy is going to coach Zechariah Poyser from Jacksonville State. Number 2 safety in the portal overall. 4-star transfer, top 100 transfer overall. Big get. Freshman All-America last year. He comes to the Miami Hurricanes. So that's an addition. Ethan O'Connor, 4-star corner, top 10 corner in the portal from Washington State, 4 interceptions as a redshirt freshman. Another freshman comes to Miami. Xavier Lucas, the number 1 corner in the portal, 3 years of eligibility from Wisconsin, comes to Miami as a transfer. Manuel Carnley, 4-star corner from Arizona, 3 years of eligibility. Another redshirt freshman comes to Miami as a corner. So I just named you 4 guys that are freshmen entering their sophomore year that are considered 4-star type transfers coming to Miami in the secondary. You bring back O.J. Frederic, who is a freshman All-America with 3 more years of eligibility. You need some veteran help. You bring in Charles Brantley, another 4-star transfer cornerback from Michigan State, longtime starter in the Big Ten. So, I mean, add that all up. You also have Terry Jefferson coming in from Jacksonville State to be an analyst, kind of on-field coach, help out there. This is a complete overhaul of your secondary. You bring back Damari Brown, bring back Zaquan Patterson, Dylan Day, someone who's played really, really well in special teams as a true freshman from Louisiana, played a little bit in the secondary there towards the end of the year. We're going to see how this all looks. Of course, Corey Heatherman, the new defensive coordinator from Minnesota, top 10 defense in the country last year. So on paper, and look, this is not an all-star team. You can't just get the best coach here, best coach there as far as market value and expect it all to come together. That's not how this works. So we got to wait and see. But if you're looking at it on paper, and I presented this to any Canes fan on paper before the offseason, they couldn't sign up fast enough for that kind of overhaul of the coaching staff on defense and the secondary when it comes to pass defense.
A-Rob says for much as people hate on Jamil Adai, he did a good job with development. Is Harris an upgrade in the recruiting department? Because with Adai, that was his biggest issue. So again, I'll pull this up, his all-time recruits page, which I found very interesting here. Look who he recruited to Washington back in the day. Mish Powell was one of his guys. But again, this is this last year alone. Secondary recruiter on Dallas Wilson, secondary recruiter on Hilton Stubbs, primary recruiter on Ben Hanks. And I saw some people in the comments saying, oh, well, Hanks was a legacy. That does not mean that a guy is a layup to go to the school. And at the end of the day, there were other programs who were recruiting him very hard. So primary recruiter there, Lagonza Hayward, a primary recruiter there, high 4-star safety, and then Jalen Waters that we were just talking about, primary recruiter for next class. So seems like he's doing a really good job recruiting wise. I can't say I've heard any like anecdotes or anything like that. I haven't heard anyone who like has come across him, and I haven't spoken to anyone about him. But again, the results have spoken for themselves.
And shout out to John at Holistic Shield. If you have not signed up for Canes Inside and you're a Miami fan, you're missing out on the ultimate Miami Hurricanes football content and community. That's not just the daily podcast that we do. Like and subscribe if you're new to the show. We're on every single day giving you the news. It's the community, the chat, and then, of course, the CanesInsight.com community, 7 million posts, tens of thousands of members. There's no more intense conversation on the Canes with jokes, with just post after post after post, news, things you never even found being shared, videos, social media getting shared on there. It is the one-stop shop for Miami Hurricanes fans. Everything you need is right there on canesinsight.com, and it's free.
A-Rab says, do we foresee any issue with having too many cooks in the kitchen, as a defensive staff has a lot of guys with ego? I mean, look, I think it's definitely going to be something to watch. I don't know if I'm foreseeing issues. I don't know if that's necessarily the right phrase, but it's a bunch of new staff members coming together that have never worked together. So that's always, of course, going to be something to look out for. But I think that obviously, as we see already with the tweets that we just showed with Coach Etheridge and Will Harris, after the news there seems to be some good synergy already. And at the end of the day, these guys want to come together, win games, and go get paid and move on to, bigger opportunities as they please,
Yep. We'll see, right? That's my answer to that. We don't know. I mean, look, we had a similar situation, I would say, in 2022 when you brought in a lot of big name coaches and it didn't coalesce. I think the talent's better, even with the defensive back recruiting being down, just the infusion of transfer talent, young transfer talent. I think you have much more talent in that room. So you could see it coming together. But again, I don't know. That's what spring's about. That's what the season's about. We'll see. But I'd rather have guys that everybody wants than guys everybody doesn't want, right? That to me is the best measure, but you still don't know how it's going to be. But I can tell you the transfers we got, everybody wanted. You saw Wisconsin cry and try to sue us when we got Xavier Lucas, right? That was for a reason. All the 4-star portal guys we got, we beat Georgia for we beat Georgia for Ethan O'Connor. We beat Georgia for Zechariah Poyser. Again, Lucas, number one corner in the portal. They tried to sue us when we took him. The Big Ten put out a statement because it was such a big loss for Wisconsin. Charles Brantley, that was a pretty smooth deal, but he was someone who's already been in the Big Ten making plays. Manuel Carnley, we beat Michigan. We beat Ole Miss. You look at the draft and see what kind of corners those guys are producing. So, bottom line, big move, and we'll see how it plays out. P, I see you working over there.
Well, no, because I was looking at Daniel Rhodes's comment saying, "Can Will Harris help recruit Javari Flowers?" And he was his primary recruiter at Florida. I don't know. I can't say that I have inside info on the nature of their relationship, but I also don't know how high up his list Florida was. So that could be an indication of, whether or not he can help or not.
Yeah, he's also a teammate of Jalen Waters on Raw Miami, somebody that we think we're going to make a real strong run at, coached by Jose Duasa, who I think we're probably going to get on the show here either Monday or Tuesday. So he'll be talking about all these guys that he coached at Raw Miami, which just won a huge tournament out in Vegas, sent South Florida Express home. So Raw Miami continuing to do work with guys like Jalen Waters. We talk about reclassifying from 26 to 25. There was a huge reclassification from the class of 27 to the class of 26. So add a name to your board for the Miami Hurricanes. That is Ethan Booby Feaster from Texas, from DeSoto, Texas. Maybe the top wide receiver in that 27 class. And when I saw in person here at the Battle Miami, big dude, and Devin didn't look like a 27 kid, looked like probably like a college sophomore, but he has decided to reclassify to the 26 class. Miami is after Booby Feaster. They landed a helicopter on that field in DeSoto. So Miami's on the board. They were when Hayes Fawcett did the tweet with all the logos, Miami's logo is on there. This is a nationwide battle. So it's going to be, it'll be something to watch. But he's someone who was just in Miami this past spring for the Battle Miami. And you watch him play, it's not hard to see why he's rated where he is.
Yeah, like you said, he looks like he belongs in this class here from a physical standpoint. Canes Cats T305. I don't know if he's been in the comments today, but he always talks about the guys who reclassify. And to me, it always comes down to are they physically ready for it? Right? Do they have not only the frame, because a lot of them have the frame, but do they already look closer being filled out? And this looks like a guy who is closer to being there than not, without a doubt.
I saw him in person. Physical, no problem. This guy's ready to play college right now. Daniel Rose says this kid tagged Canes football in his ex-close post about reclassification. Pete, see if you can find that post. Appreciate that heads up, Daniel. But yeah, again, guy I saw in person, size, twitch. He looked every bit of a 5-star player. He was on a loaded team in that 7-on-7, but didn't take long to figure out who he is. There you see his ability to break tackles. My receiver's going to be a very interesting thing for the Canes this year. You got Calvin Russell, a key target. Here we go.
He did tag the Canes. He also tagged USC, LSU, Texas A&M, Texas, Oregon, SMU, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, and Colorado. So Miami right in the mix.
Right in the mix. Hey, better to be
on the list. Daniel, appreciate the heads up.
Better to be on the list than off the list. And you're seeing, look, I mean, Miami is I always say, disappointing season last year, disappointing finish to the recruit. I mean, let me say this: disappointing finish to the season, disappointing finish to the recruiting class. Great portal season, great coaching season. We'll see. You want the logo to be in the mix. You need the logo to stay relevant. There's been many years where the logo has not been relevant. When you see 5-star players like Jackson Cantwell, number 1 player in the country, and Miami's logo's up there with these big boys. Booby Feaster, the logo's up there with the big boys. All the preseason stuff, Miami's logo's up there with the big boys. Every portal player, when you're in the mix for those kind of players and that kind of, national conversation, you are a relevant program. That to me is essential to Miami going forward, especially as the ACC lowers in relevance. Miami's 14th ranked class actually finished 13th, but Miami's 13th ranked class. It was a very big disappointment for the Canes. It was the number 1 class in the ACC by far. So the ACC is on a down. Miami needs to stay relevant, kind of like a Notre Dame, and just stay in position to do what they do and be a top program.
Let's see what else.
Juan says, thanks for nothing. He tagged every other team in D1. Not every team.
Only like 12 more.
Top 12. Top 12 it means you're in the game. And look, you saw the number 1 receiver in the country in 26. We'll see where Feaster ends up in the rankings, but Tristan Keys already set his official visit to Miami, right? That's done. So that's a smaller list. If we can get an official visit from Feaster, now we're talking about smaller list. He was here, like I said, in January for that Battle Miami. So he's been around the area. He's used to it.
And D, just real quick, kind of going back to the coaching thing. As this staff is wrapped up here, and this is what the finishing touches on the defensive staff look like. Damian Lewis, Zach Etheridge, and Will Harris here on in the last week plus.
Yeah, it's going to be about chemistry, right, to me, because if you look at each of these coaches, they each improved their units at the school they're at considerably. They didn't just walk into a unit that was already great. In fact, if you look at Lewis and Harris in particular, Colorado's D-line was one of the worst in the country in 2023. The defensive backs of Florida were some of the worst in the country in 2023. Both those units improved by like 80 spots on the rankings. Etheridge been producing talent for a long, long time and just got a promotion very quickly at Houston from DB coach to passing defense coordinator, which comes with some money. So on paper, everything is what you want. It's just a matter of, putting it all together and getting chemistry. Real quick, Pete, let's talk about some folks that always put it together and have tremendous chemistry in the kitchen. Islas Canarias, the number 1 Cuban restaurant in all of Miami. Islas Canarias Express. It's Valentine's Day. I should have started by wishing happy Valentine's Day to all the Canes lovers out there with your significant other. Hope you enjoy the day. Maybe come out to the light, which we'll talk about here in a second. But if you want to get a nice gift, nothing better than the heart-shaped croqueta boxes available for pickup at Dayland in the dining pavilion. Pre-order by calling 786-580-3168. You can also get some flowers from House of Lilac with that package. Knock it all out. If you miss your Valentine's morning gift, go switch.
It's a dire situation. If you haven't figured that out, man, it's almost noon here.
The people probably been checking Canes Inside and refreshing. They forgot about their loved ones. So check out Islas Canarias. You'll be in good shape. And you got the new menu items: crema de malanga, chicken soup, loaded fries, yuca bites, camarones enchilados. You got everything you need at Islas Canarias. And it's Valentine's Day, man. So give the gift of ham at Islas.
A-Rab asking us about Christian Taylor to Virginia Tech, supposedly one of the most creative offensive minds out there. So he was quality control coach with the Bills in 2024, and he's from William & Mary, that crazy offense that they ran there. I mean, listen, I like drones. I think we both like drones. It just hasn't completely worked out for him yet. So is this a spark he needs? Maybe it is.
They need a lot, right? They lost receivers. They lost their 2 top offensive linemen. Braylon Moore goes to LSU. Xavier Chaplin, unbelievable tackle, probably one of the top tackles in the market, if not the best tackle in the market, goes to Auburn. They lost Aeneas Peebles up front, and Antoine Powell, with APR, what's his name? The pass rusher, their top pass rusher. Those guys both move on. So they lose their 2 top pass rushers on the defensive line. They lost Tootin to the NFL, their running back. They lost Mansour Delane to LSU. They lost one of their safeties, Stroman, to Notre Dame. They got raided, man. And they've been recruiting pretty poorly, and they haven't really done much in the portal. So Virginia Tech's got a lot of work to do to build around Kyron Drone. So being creative is probably a pretty good idea, because talent-wise, they're in trouble.
Yep, without a doubt. A-Rob says, who's winning tonight? D-Money, Solo, Drew, or Damian?
I like Drew. On that one. If that's one thing I can't do on Valentine's Day. If I watch SmackDown Valentine's Day, my wife will probably kill me. So I'll watch that tomorrow morning. All right, well, let's shift it to baseball here. Pete, you gonna hop out?
Yeah,
get behind the board.
I'm gonna get behind the boards here, and we'll have Sebastian Font hop in here live from the light.
There we go. So it is baseball season. Get your tickets now. MiamiHurricanes.com. UConn, Niagara, which we're about to see. The Gators, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech. So many great games this season. Get your season tickets now for this amazing experience. If you've been here, you know what it's like with the Mark Light Shakes, the classic shakes. We're going to be out here for Valentine's Day. It's going to be a fun event. My wife actually let me get out here, so I will be here on Valentine's Day. If you see me, say what's up. But it's going to be an unbelievable event. Get your season tickets at MiamiHurricanes.com. Do not miss out. This is one of the best schedules Miami has had in a while. Filled with tournament teams, great teams like UConn that went very far in the tournament. And, of course, the Gators and the ACC, which some people think might be the best conference in college baseball. College baseball is on fire right now. I've never seen it better. Packed stadiums, Major League first-round draft picks all over the place, including in the ACC, probably more than anybody. So be part of it. Be part of the excitement with the Miami institution. Hurricanes baseball at the light. And we've got an institution right here. Sebastian Font, our baseball correspondent. You're going to see a lot more of this guy in the future. Played, for those who don't know, played with the team this summer, center fielder for Palmetto, before shifting gears to a future in journalism. He's a very valued member of our team. You're going to see, again, a lot of him going forward, particularly with baseball coverage, but more. And he's been with me side by side watching fall scrimmages, fall practices, and now here are the practices the past month. So nobody's more plugged in to the team and what it looks like. So, Sebastian, what's going on?
It's all going good. I mean, it's opening day. Everybody's excited. There's good buzz around the team. I mean, it's beautiful at the light here. I mean, it's really great to be here, and this team is going to surprise a lot of people. I think a lot of people look back to last year very skeptical, but I feel like with the talent they brought in, it's essentially a completely new team. You're going to beat a lot of good teams and surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, no better place to start than the best third baseman in the country, Daniel Cuvée. If you're a baseball fan, even if you're not a Canes baseball fan or a college baseball fan, you're just a baseball fan. Miami has the best third baseman in America right here, Daniel Cuvée. I interviewed him yesterday, or I remember Wednesday. The interview came out this morning. Official Miami website. So if you're not subscribing to that show, check it out on Apple Podcasts. Check it out on Spotify, on the official Miami Hurricanes YouTube channel there. Look at that guy right there talking to the best third baseman in America. This series is awesome. I interviewed Cam Ward, interviewed Damon Martinez, most of the top players for the Canes football. We do Canes basketball, Canes women's basketball. This is the spot. So go ahead and subscribe to that show if you haven't already for in-depth interviews with our student athletes, getting to know them off the field. He was awesome. Really enjoyed that talk with Cuvée, son of highlight players, which I thought was super cool. His grandfather on his mom's side, highlight on the Spanish bass side. His dad, a professional highlight player from the French bass side. So unique background. His dad used to throw him fly balls and ground balls with the cesta. So really cool interview. Learned a lot about him. So we're about to break down the team as we get ready for the season preview. But first, Pete, let's get a word from some of the absolute best friends that Canes baseball has, and that's our friends at Sal Asteroid and Cox.
Episode of the Canes Insight podcast is brought to you by our friends at Sala Astorita and Cox, a boutique law firm focusing on securities regulatory matters, broker-dealer and investment advisor regulation, white-collar criminal defense, complex commercial litigation, and securities arbitration and litigation. The firm aggressively represents clients throughout the nation. Contact them now at 561-989-9080 or visit them online at salalaw.com.
All right, let's get to it, man. Really excited to see this team. I'm not going to bury the lead. This was one of the most disappointing Canes teams in history last year. You all saw it. So there's a lot of room for improvement. Certainly the floor is pretty low, but I expect this team to be markedly improved and a much more entertaining and consistent product that will compete for a spot in the tournament, which for many years was not even the expectation. It was a given, right, with this program. I think this is a team that's going to be able to compete for a spot in the tournament and maybe beyond. We'll see what they can do. But I want to start with the catcher position, right? Let's just go across the diamond, every single spot. At the catcher spot, I thought last year defensively was a tremendous weakness of this team. I know it was a high priority of the coaching staff to address. They brought in 3 freshman catchers, 2 they knew were catchers, 1 they converted to catcher, Ethan Puig, third baseman / everything, now playing catcher for the Canes, very versatile defender from Miami. Evan Tavares, super highly touted young catcher, a guy who has some MLB interest, big-bodied, athletic kid. Nolan Johnson, a tall 6'7" catcher from California, I believe.
Yeah.
And to top it off, the starting catcher from Oregon State, one of the best baseball programs in the country, defensive specialist, Tanner Smith. So, Sebastian, what do you see from the catcher position from this year as opposed to last?
Yeah, so when you look at Tanner Smith, his highlights back at Oregon State and throughout the scrimmages this fall and this spring, right, you could obviously see the type of defensive prowess that he has, right? And we'll say this for all the positions up the middle, catcher, shortstop, and center field. You need those to be defensively very strong. Those are your captains in the field. They cover the most space. They're critical to the success of a team, right? And Tanner Smith has looked elite in the fall, whether it's through pitch framing, throwing guys out on the bases, and just commanding the game overall. He's looked very strong, and given this pitching staff where you're going to have a lot of relievers converted into starters, those are your weekend guys, give them confidence to go attack hitters and get those extra innings.
Yeah, I think throwing guys out to me is just watching him in these scrimmages. His ability to throw runners out to me is the most significant difference between him and what we had last year. He is probably near the top of the ACC in that category, whereas last year I thought we were towards the bottom. So that just jumped out. Seeing in scrimmages, he's been gunning guys down consistently. Behind him, that backup battle will be interesting. I thought Puig had the edge for most of camp, just because he came in so strong, made that transition so naturally, was already kind of expected to be a hitter, but then surprised people with his acumen behind the plate. But Tavares, big-bodied, super powerful player, as you see here with Tanner Smith. Tavares, the other freshman, struggled a little defensively when he got here, but I think he's starting to come on, and the power. I saw him go straight away center right here. He seems to have a lot of upside.
Yeah, he has a lot of upside, and I think that back to Tanner Smith with the hitting right here, that's starting to really come along for him as well, right? With a catcher, that's probably the one position where you could have absolutely zero hitting value, but as long as he's good defensively, you'd love that, right? And as of recently in the spring scrimmages, he's been hitting a lot of line drives, even a couple home runs, and that's a really good sign for this team that if your catcher's hitting well, the rest of your team's going to hit well. And then with Tavares, that kid could just hit, right? He was one of the best hitting prospects flat out, regardless of catcher or not. And he's been really turning it up. A lot of line drives, a lot of power there. So if he can keep his progress defensively, he'd be a great backup and for the future for this Canes team as well.
Yes, that's a fun position to watch. I saw Smith knock it out to left field here. He definitely has some power. I don't know if he's going to be a 300 hitter. That'd be great. But certainly I think the power is going to help, make up for whatever he doesn't do as far as consistent hitting. And look, who knows? He could have a huge hitting year. We know the defense is going to be outstanding. First base, Todd Hudson's got the majority of reps there. 6'5", 6'6", super athletic lefty hitter from Liberty. He was an outfielder / pitcher there. Probably, two-way player, now focusing only on offense and also playing a new position on defense with first base. He's a right-handed thrower, but the length at first base, you see the fit there. New position, so there's going to be a learning curve. But I think he's probably more than anybody on the team, the guy that if he can hit, and we saw him in fall hit outstanding, if he can hit, that's going to be, to me, one of the X factors of how good this team can be.
Yeah, so obviously with Todd, he came over here from Liberty and was originally in the fall started as an outfielder, and they decided to move him to first base, saw the potential of that frame there, and he hit. Like, he flat out hit in the fall. He was great. But when you're someone that's that big, you see it with a lot of hitters in the pros, those big hitters, they kind of tend to be a bit streaky because with those long levers, long arms, you have to kind of piece it together, get in the right timing sequence to make it all work, right? And he had that in the fall. And he's getting back into it in the spring. But when it's on, I mean, it's ridiculous. Both sides of the field, he hits everywhere, runs well, and is just a great hitter at just jumping on pitches. So when he's hot, I mean, you could see him have a similar power output to a Max Galvin, as we're gonna talk about him later in the show, and even get up to not Cuvée level numbers, but enough to support him in a really meaningful way.
And I've heard that he was the fastest player on the team, except for maybe Sebastian Font. So the speed is going to surprise people for how big he is. He looks like a tight end.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he takes 2 steps and he's at first base. The dude flies, and it's an underrated part of the game, right? That's the way that college baseball and baseball as a whole is moving towards now. It's the speed and power factor rather than the contact and the small ball, and he fits that profile perfectly.
And look, you got your guys that you expect to hit. You have your guys that you expect maybe not to hit as much, but to play great defense. I think Hudson, he's a guy, I don't know. It could be either way, and if he's able to hit, I think it's going to take this team to a whole nother level. So mark his name down as an X factor. I think if you see him come out hot, you will see team success follow. One guy that we feel pretty good about what to expect, Dorian Gonzalez, one of the few returning starters on this team at second base. Hit well in fall, lefty. You know what he can do. Probably miscast last year as like one of your main power hitters just because you didn't have that much else. But someone that is a leader, a veteran, a Belen Jesuit grad, so you know he's a scholar athlete and somebody I think that's going to be a consistent part of this team.
Yeah, he's probably going to be the most consistent part of this infield minus Cuvée, right? He's going to get you towards that 10 home run mark. He's going to hit around that 300 mark, and he's going to play solid defense. I mean, you know what to expect from him. He's been here for years, and he's really going to kind of lead this team, especially the new guys, the younger guys, kind of bring that all together, piece it together, and be a leader at second base, right? And take this team forward. He's been here for the good years. He's been here for the bad years, and he wants to go out on a high.
Yep. Excited to see what he can do in this at shortstop, right? This is a position that was highly contested. You lose Antonio Jimenez, kind of a mutual parting there. Just didn't work out. Started as a true freshman last year, highly touted recruit, ends up going to UCF. You could see a lot of talent. You could see it coming together for him down the road, but it wasn't there last year. Just he didn't hit. Ironically, his teammate up in Miramar, Justin LeBron, goes to Alabama. Miami kind of chose wrong there. It happens. But that's one of the reasons this team struggled last year. Justin LeBron ends up being one of the best young shortstops in America when he goes to Alabama. So just that kind of sliding doors. And Jimenez was the higher touted guy. Most people thought Jimenez was the better prospect. It wasn't like Miami went on a limb to prioritize Jimenez. But baseball is a funny sport. That one decision had tremendous impact on last season. So you hope to get that shortstop position right. You go out and get a transfer. Played all over the infield. UNC Greensboro's Jake Ogden, originally from Miami, Coral Reef kid, guy that hits consistently, just a true baseball player. Shortstop is good. That's one of the things people are going to watch is how is his defense going to be in shortstop. He's been playing there. I think just the baseball awareness is going to carry him there. But that's certainly something people are watching. What I think no one has any questions about is he's going to hit. He was an all-star in the Cape, and I think he's going to be a huge, huge addition to this team.
Yeah, with Jake Ogden, I mean, he's going to hit leadoff first, most likely, right? And just get on base. We saw it in the fall scrimmages against FAU. We see it in the spring scrimmages. The kid can hit, right? And we say it over and over again, the term gamer, right? That's what you want this team to be. You don't want guys that have the high rankings, all the flashy tools, but can't deliver on game day. This guy will always find a way to get it done, whether it's making a diving play, just leaning in to get hit by the pitch. He's going to find a way to be a key factor in this team, get us do things to win baseball games, right? It's not going to be about himself. It's going to be about winning games, and that's what you could expect out of him, right? People worry about whether he could fit at shortstop, because he's third baseman, but he's athletic. I mean, the guy can dive, get back up, make the throw, throws it hard across the diamond. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people at shortstop with how much defensively he can contribute. I mean, people already expect the offense, and he's going to bring that. So,
yeah. And then we also have Brandon Nagoti, the true freshman from Belen Jesuit, same high school as Dorian Gonzalez, same high school as your boy D Money, the best high school in South Florida. So he's a true freshman. Ogden, I expect to start at shortstop, but Nagoti has a lot of ability. He's probably more experienced at shortstop, has played there pretty consistently. One of the top high school players in South Florida last year. Someone told me he was, in their opinion, the best high school player in Dade County. I mean, you were there, so he's definitely in the conversation, right?
Yeah, he was a hard out for sure against my team.
So we'll see how that position goes, but you can expect Ogden to hit at or near the top of the order throughout the season. He's going to be a very consistent player. And again, this is a Cape Cod All-Star that you're bringing in back home to supplement this lineup. Moving over to third base, I think we all know who's going to be starting there. That's the best third baseman in America, Daniel Cuvée from Broward County. Like I said, I did the interview with him for Storm Sessions. Check that one out if you want to learn more about a superstar on Miami's campus. When I say he's the best third baseman in America, that's not just me. I think Baseball America said it. D1 Baseball said it. The numbers say it. He had an incredible true freshman season last year. Broke Pat Burrell's record for home runs as a true freshman. Has a lot of Pat Burrell comps. So, I mean, what else can you say? His defense, I thought, more than anything, looked improved here in these last few weeks as he wants to show scouts, I'm not just somebody you have to move to first base in the pros as a right first baseman. I'm someone that can hang at third base. I thought in the last few weeks he showed improvement there.
Yeah, and obviously with Cuvée, I mean, the awards list, the records last year, it all speaks for itself, right? He's a Golden Spikes watch list. And the key thing about this year is whether he can just walk, right? If teams want to pitch around him, if he can let them pitch around him and let the guys behind him do damage, that would be a great situation for this team. Because either they're going to attack him, and you know what you're going to get with Cuvée, right? Long home runs, just bombs, doubles. He's already proven that he's the guy, right? If he can lay off the pitches outside the zone, kind of tighten up a bit, and make pitchers really think about whether they're going to throw a pitch to Daniel Cuvée or a guy like Max Galvin behind him, that's a good thing for this team. And obviously, as we said, his defense has progressively gotten better. It's getting better, right? Many people worry the first base thing. It's getting better, right? He's offensive first. And when you hit like that, it really doesn't matter. You're launching 112 mile an hour home runs. I mean, it's Daniel Cuvée. You know what to expect.
Yeah, just going through the stats here. As a true freshman, hit 351, 24 homers, 75 RBIs. So, I mean, that speaks for itself. That's why he's on top of these lists. I'm not going to give away the lineup, but JD Arteaga made some public comments about how he likes that left kind of dynamic, just him as a pitcher that gave him some problems. Obviously, Cuvée right-handed right there in the middle in the order. Without giving away too much of the lineup, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some lefties around him. So switching gears to a lefty right now, who I think to me has been the most consistent hitter since I've been coming to these practices in fall. That's Max Galvin. The lefty went to Miami-Dade College, lit it up. Last year didn't play, transferred to Oklahoma State, was not able to play, but it wasn't because of any lack of ability or anything really. He just wasn't eligible to play. This guy is just a pure hitter. Barrels the ball every single time I'm out here. Tremendous energy. You know him personally, obviously having worked with the team, but this guy seems like a guy everybody loves, brings a lot of juice, even just to practice. And I would not be shocked if this guy was at or near the top of the list for ACC doubles with the way he hits. Hit like crazy in the Northwoods League, which is the second best summer league after the Cape. And I think he won the home run derby there, led the league in home runs. I mean, he was a beast in that league. He's carried that over here to the light.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a person that loves watching beautiful baseball swings, do yourself a favor and look up Max Galvin highlights, right? Is such a beautiful swing that always manages to find barrel. And he's a high energy guy, right? He's going to be the key player, the spark plug for this team. Because as you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he leads the ACC in doubles. I mean, from what we've seen from the fall to the spring, the guy just peppers the ball and just he attacks. It could be a 3-0 count, and he's there, green light, and he's going to launch one over to the parking lot in right field. I mean, the guy finds a way to barrel baseballs and do it on a consistent basis, right? The other day, he was a triple short of the cycle, I believe, and that just shows the type of player that he is. He was the most underrated transfer portal addition that we had, probably the most underrated transfer portal addition in the country. I mean, he was so low ranked, it was ridiculous. And he'll probably be batting behind Cuvée, and that's such a that's such good protection for Cuvée. And just it's like Cuvée. I mean, I think once the season gets going, people are going to hold him probably near that regard. You're going to know what you're going to expect from him. A lot of doubles, a lot of energy. I think he's going to become a fan favorite.
Yeah, I think second best hitter on the team behind Cuvée. And, we lose Blake Sear. Different players. He doesn't have the infield background. He's a lefty, not a righty. But I get Blake Sear type vibes with the way he's able to barrel the ball and bring the energy. That was a big loss. I think Galvin's going to fill a lot of that coming from that left field spot. So moving on to the center position, you replaced Jacoby Long, who had a really nice last year there for the Canes, with a pair of freshmen. And I'm not going to just say one name, but I think two guys that are competing pretty tight, guys you shared a position room with. And that is Mikey Torres from Doral and Fabio Peralta from – where'd Fabio go to high school here? Let's check it out.
He went to Miami Christian.
From Miami Christian. Both lefties, both very good on defense. Peralta had a very, very nice few weeks here coming on offensively. Torres also been bringing it offensively after a little bit of a slow start in fall. A lot of people believe that Mikey Torres from Doral is the best defensive center fielder we've had here in almost 20 years. I've heard that from J.D. Arteaga. Coach Dominguez said this guy's absolutely elite. I've heard other people in the baseball community say that this guy is as elite as it gets defensively. Just me as a layman watching him go through defensive drills, it just looks different. You shared a room with him. What can you tell me about what Torres brings defensively?
I mean, I'd say even more than his range and his speed, his arm is the biggest factor. I mean, he has an absolute cannon from center field. Like, I faced him when he was a two-way, back when he was pitching at Doral. It flies out of his hand. And that's the biggest part of his defense. Obviously you have the speed, you have the range, the flashy catches, but he's going to save us some runs with that arm. Teams are going to think twice before running. And when it comes to being the best center fielder in the last 20 years, he has the confidence, he has the swagger to back that up, right? You look at him take fly balls, you look at him throw around. He has confidence. He has that vibe that he knows the talent that he has, and he's going to showcase it. It's not just he knows that he has talent. He wants to showcase it. And as of recently in the spring, the bat's coming along, as Chris Dominguez said. I mean, these two freshmen, and back to Fabio, both of them are starting to hit at the perfect time. Both of them offer great defense. You can see Fabio maybe coming in as a defensive substitution, possibly. JD hinted at that.
In right field,
yep. And both of them, they're going to be so great for this, not only now, but the future as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see both these guys. Very similar, right? You're talking about lefties, lefty hitters, lefty throwers, center fielders, defensive first guys, and guys are starting to come on, both guys from the city of Miami. Torres also, JD said he might be our best left-handed pitcher if he actually pitched. So it tells you a little bit about the athlete. Guy that had a lot of MLB interest coming in. John Jay comparisons from scouts. I don't know if the hitting is going to be there as a freshman. Jay hit really well as a true freshman, but that's not my words. Those are scouts on Torres when he came out of high school. So at right field, you're talking about a totally different profile. Right-handed thrower, right-handed hitter, masher of baseballs, Derek Williams from Wichita State, one of the better baseball programs in the country since I've been alive. 318, 14 home runs, 44 RBIs, gets hit by more pitches than any player I've ever seen, but somebody who is very much a hit-first profile there in right field and is going to bring some pop to this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it the other day at one of the midweek scrimmages. He took a pitch on the outside half of the plate and pulled it for a home run. I mean, the guy has juice. He has pop. And again, you saw his stats last year, over 10 home runs. That's what we should be looking for in this team. If you have multiple guys hitting 10 home runs, that's a great year, right? Last year, again, I keep bringing this out because I feel like it's the most important stat that showcased why it was so poor last year. You had one guy over 10 home runs, Cuvée, and you had one guy over 10 stolen bases in Jacoby Long. You need power and speed, right? Nick Soto has brought the speed element. You got transfer guys that bring the power element, and you've solved those two problems. And again, we're going to head over to pitching. I think that this team has all the pieces that can get hot at the right time, surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, Ogden was a double-digit base steal last year. Derek Williams, 5 steals, but a lot of power. Maybe Torres, you think he can get to that double-digit steals if he's getting on base enough?
Yeah, he's gonna. That's gonna be his role, right? He's gonna be at the bottom of the lineup, defensive first. If you get any hitting out of him, you're happy, right? His job is to get walks, get on base, cause havoc, put the ball in play, do whatever he can to just use that speed, which is you can't teach speed. Can't teach speed. If you're gonna be maybe not hitting as well as a freshman, getting your feet wet, get on base, create havoc.
Last but not least, Bobby Marsh, the designated hitter, transferred from Penn State. I think he started out at FAU where he was with Coach Cooper. I think that was the connection that brought him to the University of Miami. Or sorry, he's at Penn State with Coach Cooper, started out at FAU, and lands at the University of Miami. Guy that's pure hitter. Just looking at some of the stats last year at Penn State in the Big Ten, hit 309, 6 homers, 47 RBI. Another lefty. So you're talking about lefties, right? You got to go with Hudson, who's a left-handed, just left-handed bats. Todd Hudson at first base, Dorian Gonzalez at second base, Max Galvin in left field, Mikey Torres or Fabio Peralta at center field, and Bobby Marsh at DH. A lot of left-handed bats. Bobby Marsh, somebody who really can just hit.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, for Bobby Marsh, it's not a fake 300, right? He hit 300 for both sides of arms, I believe. So it's not a guy that you're going to really have to worry about platooning. If he sees a lefty, you're going to freak out. No. This guy can hit. He can hit flat out, can hit some bombs, get some singles, get some doubles, do everything you want out of the DH spot. And I think that part about him being able to hit both sides, that's so crucial in making another team think and how they approach us as a lineup.
Yeah, what I think is cool, if you look at the projected starting lineup, you got just from home states, right? Tanner Smith, Oregon kid. Hudson, South Carolina kid. Dorian, Miami. Jake Ogden, Miami. Cuvée, Broward. Galvin's from Dallas, Texas, right? You got the Miami center fielders. And then Derek Williams, who I believe is from Kansas, right? Derek Williams from St. Louis, Missouri. So all across the country to bring this team together. A lot of guys that are underrated with a chip on their shoulder. Good attitude, right? Just the vibe in the clubhouse.
I mean, these are guys that either came from mid-majors, transferred. They want to prove themselves, right? Not all of them are the high-ranking guys that are just – they think they're here because these guys want to prove themselves, right? They have a chip on their shoulder, and this team's hungry. They want to – the guys that came back from last year, they want to right the wrongs. And the guys that are new here, they want to help those guys. It's a real family environment, and it's a team that wants to win. It's win first.
Now, talking about the pitching staff, which if you're looking last year to this year, I think the biggest difference on the team is going to be the depth of pitching. You heard Coach Arteaga say it. To me, that is the biggest difference, is how many pitchers have experience and have just the chops, the ability, the stuff to pitch at the ACC level. You got guys moving up, but guys moving up with production. So the depth of pitching to me is a major, major difference from last year where you're relying on guys like Oliveira, guys like Vargas, guys that weren't really ready, I thought. Nick Robert was ready, but he was a freshman that you relied upon too much once you got out of those 3 starters, all of whom got drafted in the 4th round. So much more depth this year. We'll go through some of the names, starting with the guy who's starting today, the aforementioned Nick Robert, big-bodied right-hander, loves to throw that sinker. The off-speed, from what I can hear, has taken a tremendous jump in the last few months, and that sinker's jumped in velocity closer to the mid-90s.
Yeah, his last outing in the last spring scrimmage, I believe he had the first 2 innings, he had 5 strikeouts, right? His off speed was unhittable. It was just falling off the plate, guys looking silly left and right. And his fastball sitting at the 94, 95 range. That's what you want. And as JD said, he was a reliever last year that was really a starter. So his profile fits much better as a starter. You're going to get some contact. You're going to let the infield do its job. And I think that plays, right? Many people worry about whether he's going to last the 5 innings. I think his contact profile will lend him to the starter role. And again, we'll see tonight how he does.
Yeah, we're going to have to play defense behind him, but he's going in the right direction. Did a lot of really nice things last year mentally to do what he did in his role as a true freshman. Shows you that he's tough and just mentally strong. Saturday guy, to me, this is the guy I'm most excited to watch, which is Griffin Hughes, South Florida guy, returning back home from Palm Beach, Wellington. He went to Cincinnati in college, was a two-way guy, played shortstop, pitched as well, more of a reliever. Now he's shifting to a pure pitcher, a starting pitcher, right-hander. He was electric in the Cape, went to the Cape and had D1 Baseball tweeting about him as a potential second-round pick. So he's really an ascendant player, supreme talent. The fastball has a ton of movement. The off-speed is great, super athletic. You can just see him on the mound. Everything is efficient. Everything is tight. What do you see from Griffin Hughes? I know you're a big fan of the upside there.
Yeah, I mean, you just watch him throw that fastball, man. It's got that modern day, the jump to it, the rise, that it factor with that fastball, right? And obviously dominated in the Cape, the D1 Baseball saying second-round pick around there. But we put him back into the starter role, right? We need him to go more than 5, right? It's whether he can keep his pitch count low with how dominant his pitches are, right? If he can keep that pitch count low, I mean, there's no reason why he can't make that adjustment. He's got a lot of energy on the mound. I mean, fans are already starting to like him with the glasses and the mustache. Great guy. And, I mean, I can't talk enough about that fastball. And it's the perfect modern day jump to it. It's going to get guys thinking they're on it, they're underneath it. And he's going to do well this year, I think.
Another guy that I think has the ability to jump into that day 2 mix. He got drafted last year, I believe in the 18th round, around there, maybe in the teens. Chose to come back to the Canes and really show that he could be a starting pitcher. That is Brian Walters, nephew of Matt Walters, defensive tackle on the 2001 Miami Hurricanes championship football team. Brother, of course, of Andrew Walters, one of the best relievers in Miami history, flying through the minors, now already in the major leagues with the Guardians. So the bloodlines are there. The stuff is there. You saw it last year in spurts, been dealing with some injuries, but now healthy, looking to showcase what he can do as a starter. And again, someone I think with a good year as a starter, you could be talking also in that day 2 range with Griffin Hughes.
Yeah, with Walters, I mean, like, obviously he's relieved a lot. Another reliever that we've brought into the starter role. So the question is, can he make it to that 5-inning mark? But I think he can. I think he's dominant enough that he'll be able to do that on a consistent basis. We've seen him in the pen. So we know what he's like from the pen. He's very dominant, a lot of 92 up to not 92, 95, 96 range. I mean, he could really dominate in a way that could put him on the path to being a very high round draft pick. When I think of our starters, I try and see whether they'd be a weekend starter on a top 10 team. We saw that there was a discussion we had in the forum, right? Whether any of these guys would be a weekend starter on a top 10 team. If Walters can get back healthy and showcase how he pitches, he would be the one guy that I think could be in that conversation on any team in the country, have a shot at being in the weekend rotation.
Yeah, so excited about those guys. The midweek, this was an area that Miami struggled with tremendously last year. It was probably the biggest reason they had a losing season, were their struggles in the midweek, especially with the ACC being so tough. We don't know for sure who the midweek starter is going to be, so I'm just going to list some names that have starting experience at this level. And I think you're going to end up seeing a mix of guys. You'll see the pitching depth really showcased here in the midweek. Just a few guys that have started games at this level. Alex Giroux, right-hander out of Hawaii, very productive last year at Hawaii. Somebody who I think with him, it's not so much the velocity. He's not going to light up the radar gun. He's going to throw in the 80s, but has a lot of movement, a lot of control, and was extremely productive last year at Hawaii in that kind of swingman role.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he will most likely be the midweek guy because of that veteran experience, how he's pitched for many years. And as D said, it's not about the velocity, it's about the location, right? The other day he got hit decently hard, but it was just home runs, right? He only gave up, I believe, 3. No hits besides that. So he's going to get hitters often off balance, a lot of missed swings. If he could keep the ball off the middle of the plate, he could be a very productive midweek guy in the sense that he can give you a lot of innings, get you over the hump, let your offense do the work, and maybe get some of those freshmen in, get them some innings, get them ready for the big stage.
Some other guys with starting experience, lefty Rob Evans from Georgia State, originally from New York City, somebody with a lot of stuff. One of the transfers might be brought in. He's been dealing with some injuries. He should be fine for this season. We'll see him pretty early here, but someone with really, really good stuff, high energy guy, whether he's a starter or a bullpen guy.
Yeah, so I think Rob is going to be good to go as early as this Sunday, actually, from what I've heard from him. And he might even be moving into the bullpen as a setup guy for Cleveland. But obviously, as you said, he has starter experience. I could see him being a midweek guy. I could see him filling in whenever his name's called. I like him a lot as a lefty. I mean, he's got, I think, 2 different changeups that he likes to use, gets hitters off balance, good fastball. I mean, he's the prototypical lefty arm, right? He's going to give you a lot of energy, get guys out, be a nightmare for left-handed hitters. And whether he's in the pen, he could crank it up a bit more, or starting, he's going to do a job for this team.
Yeah, one guy I'm excited to see is Carson Fisher, big-bodied righty, 6'5", 225, from Davenport, originally from Michigan. Laz, Miami's pitching coach, saw him at the D2 level against his team when he was coaching at that level, thought this guy was a really good pitcher, ended up reaching out, bringing him into the ACC, was a starter, not much different than Robert in that he's a big guy, sinker ball pitcher. He's going to probably do both start and pitch in the bullpen. I mean, we'll see what he does, but I think over the course of the year, a guy with that size, a guy with that pitch to contact profile, someone with starting experience, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting a bigger role in that midweek over the course of the year.
Yeah, and I think when we go back to the whole idea of whether our starters can get 5 innings, it's not like last year where we didn't have enough depth to, get away with them not going 5 innings. You will have that depth now. I mean, you have a lot of starters that are actually moving back into relief roles like Carson Fisher. He could give you 3-4 innings out of the pen and be perfectly fine to go in a day or 2 days' time. I mean, again, like Nick Roberts, sinker ball pitcher, big body, he's going to come right at you and just attack you. And again, guys like him in the pen, the depth is the difference in this year's team from last year's team.
Another guy with starting experience that we're not even talking about is Reese Lumpkin from Winthrop, a big dude. What do they got him here listed at? 6'6", 207. From another guy from South Carolina. Really nice fastball. He has got some velocity to him and has experience. He began as a starter at Winthrop. That was a team that had guys drafted last year in the pitching staff. So he's been around the block, and I think he's certainly a step up experience-wise from what we've had in his role last year.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the more interesting profiles on this team. Very, very tall, very interesting arm action, which keeps hitters very, uncomfortable at the plate. He really gets behind him and then out forward. Again, 6'6", it's going to reach you quick at the plate. He's sitting in that 95 range, and really good slider as well. I've noticed over the past few weeks, it really falls off the plate and gets hitters guessing from time to time. And again, guy like him in the pen, big step up from last year. You have to be able to put him in certain spots here and there. Again, guy with experience, he's going to be a veteran. He's going to know how to handle it.
Talking pure relievers now, somebody who was at a big-time program last year in Coastal Carolina. That is Will Smith, the veteran of the group, right-hander. Had a ton of whiffs last year. Struggled to keep the ball in the park at times, but analytics love him, basically saying that, this guy can keep the ball in the park. He's going to be extremely productive because of how much he can miss bats. Experienced guy as well. What can you tell us about Will Smith?
Yeah, so obviously the analytics love him, right? He was very unlucky with the home runs he gave up last year, and that's a good sign coming back here, right? He's a guy that's, again, veteran presence in the bullpen, a guy that will come in, get you outs, real funny guy. I mean, I think another fan favorite type of guy, whether he's going to be a setup guy or maybe even 2 or 3 inning type of guy in the pen, he's going to do a job, cutter, come at you, just really attack. I mean, he's got that prototypical windup. He really gets his leg up and attacks downhill. And I think he's going to be someone to watch for in the bullpen.
Now I'm going to lump in all the true freshmen together here. Some might start, maybe not to start the year, but you might find themselves in a midweek role. Some might be exclusively in the bullpen. I'm just going to lump them all together as the freshmen. One guy that, to me, has been a revelation really impressive the last few weeks. Michael Fernandez out of Tampa, left-hander, not the biggest guy in the world, but man, he's got some electricity. He was up to 93, 94 when I saw him from the left side as a true freshman, which, we just lost Schlesinger to the pros, maybe replace him with someone different body type, but same kind of live arm and really athletic, seems like, with his delivery, very repeatable.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, electric, right? He's been the talk of a lot of the people in the stands. Even some of the scouts have really taken a liking to him because it's a very repeatable motion. He gets into a rhythm quickly, and he just starts attacking you, right? Whether it's a very good fastball that has some nice rise to it, and he has 2 real good put-away pitches. I think Laz talked about that, right? To have a freshman throwing a very lively 94 and having 2 put-away pitches already, that's incredible for the development that he should be at. And I think that he will find himself being put in this game in games, whether it's against big teams or smaller teams, lefty-lefty matchups, a guy to get you out of jams because nothing really phases him, right? He's a kid that's just going to go out there and attack from the get-go.
Yeah, but 3 right-handed freshmen I want to talk about, similar just physically. You look at them. You look at some of the right-handers we had last year, the young players. They didn't necessarily all look the part. One big difference I saw this year is going and seeing these true freshman righties. They're big. They're athletic. It's easy to see why they were highly touted. I'll just lump them all together here. AJ Siskar, 6'3", 215 from St. Thomas Aquinas. Tate Darius, 6'4", 188 from New Jersey. And then Lachi Collera, who is 6'6", 6'5", 230 from Westminster Christian. Collera is the one that was really highly touted coming out, probably the most hype to him. But man, Siskar has been throwing really, really nice. He's got a lot of upside, a lot of velocity. And Darius, I had no idea who this guy was when I first showed up in fall. Seeing that guy, the frame, some of the juice he has throwing it, I was texting people like, who is this guy? He to me looks like somebody that has real upside to play baseball for a while. So all 3 of those guys, to me, are going to improve the youth of this team with some size and physicality.
Yeah, I think the guy that will probably get the most innings out of them might actually be Siskar. I mean, he's a real mature kid throwing in that 93 to 94 range, very repeatable motion. It's almost effortless for him. He attacks the zone, and I believe what Laz said, he's very mature enough to go outside of the zone when needed, right? So his outside of the zone pitches are purposeful. They're not mistakes, right? And to have that confidence in a kid already, he's going to get a lot of innings. And when it comes to Tate Darius, I mean, he might have some of the best stuff of any pitcher we have. I mean, it's juice, right? Great fastball, great off speed. He's got to work on pitchability a bit, but that comes with time. Get some innings, and he will fully be a star for this program for years to come. And back to Lachi, he's very downhill, right? He's going to come at you with a power fastball, off speed. He's going to attack you, big frame, and it's going to be interesting to see how he develops and if he can live up to that touted prospect pipeline.
Yeah, someone who threw 97 in high school. That's where he got, I think, the buzz for the major leagues. The velocity dropped as a senior, but if it's there, it's there, right? You see him potentially getting back to that with that big frame. One name I left out, but not by on purpose, want to get back to him, is the closer, Jackson Cleveland, coming from Lamar, highly productive player, also a two-way guy at one point, so a great athlete. But man, you said it from the beginning, people did not want to face Jackson Cleveland. You've seen his velocity jump since he first got here, and he looks like he is going to be the closer for your Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, so when you ask the guys around here, they'll all say Cleveland, real interesting guy, real funny guy. And he's gonna come in, and you might not see the high energy, right? He's very methodical in what he does, very locked in. But I mean, after you face him, you'll be wondering why you even stepped into that box, right? I mean, he's a great pitcher with a great arsenal. He's gonna attack you, and I think he's gonna become the closer. We've had great closers here, and I think he's going to live up to that.
Yeah, so look, excited to see this team. I'll be out here at the light. Sebastian's going to be taking care of his girlfriend, but he'll be there the rest of the weekend. Come out here. It's going to be a great series. Niagara's a tournament team. I mean, this is a real schedule to start the year. No cupcakes like last year, where you kind of maybe got an inflated opinion of what the team was, then you came back to reality. This is going to be an extremely tough schedule to start, but you're going to see what these guys can do right away. UF, we know what that's all about. UConn coming in, and then of course the ACC. A lot of people think the ACC is better than the SEC last year. You looked at the College World Series last year, kind of half and half. ACC, SEC had a little bit of an edge. A lot of people think that edge is flipped, and now the ACC is the best conference in college baseball. So we'll see you at the light. Go to MiamiHurricanes.com for your tickets. Go Canes.
Go Canes, baby.